Okay, let's step into the ancient world today. We're diving into a really fascinating section of text, Daniel chapter 1. This chapter, it just drops us right into a pretty dramatic moment in history.
It really does. We're talking about a time when, the kingdom of Judah was under siege by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. And, well, as often happened back then, certain individuals, especially young people from noble families, were taken captive, transported back to Babylon.
Right. So our mission, you could say, in this deep dive is to really unpack this specific chapter. See how some of these young men suddenly, uprooted and thrown into this powerful, completely new culture, how they start to navigate things. So Nebuchadnezzar, he gives this very specific order to his chief official, Ashpenaz, bring in a select group of young Israelites.
Mm.
And the text is clear on the criteria. No physical defects, good-looking, aptitude for learning.
Quick learners, well-informed, basically qualified to serve in the royal palace.
Exactly. And the plan,
Yeah.
a 3-year training program to teach them the language and the literature of the Babylonians.
And here's a really significant detail right at the start. The king assigned them food and wine every day, directly from his own royal table. So this wasn't just about keeping them fed.
No, it sounds like part of the assimilation process
Oh.
into the court, the whole Babylonian way of life.
Precisely. No, among this group, the text highlights 4 young men from Judah: Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Right. And part of this integration process involved giving them new names, Babylonian names. Daniel became Belteshazzar, Hananiah was Shadrach, Mishael became Meshach, and Azariah Abednego.
Mm-hmm. But here's where things take a bit of a turn. Despite the new names, despite the fancy food from the king, Daniel specifically resolved. He decided he wouldn't defile himself, as the text says, with the king's food and wine.
Okay, so he goes to the chief official about this. That sounds risky.
It was. The official, Ashpenaz, was genuinely afraid. I mean, the text implies he feared for his life. What if Daniel and his friends looked worse off, physically weaker than the others eating the king's food? The king would notice.
Wow, yeah. The stakes were incredibly high, even for something like diet. So what did Daniel suggest? He must have had a plan.
He did a test. He asked the guard overseeing them to try something different. Just for 10 days, feed him and his 3 friends only vegetables and water. That's it.
10 days. Vegetables and water versus the king's rich food. And the outcome.
Well, the text describes it as pretty striking. After those 10 days, Daniel and his friends actually looked healthier, better nourished than all the other young men eating the royal provisions.
Really? Healthier on vegetables and water.
That's what it says. And because the result was so clear, the guard agreed to change their diet going forward. Just vegetables for them.
That's incredible. But there's more to it, isn't there? Something about their abilities.
Yes, exactly. The text explicitly links this period, their choices, to something else. It says God gave these 4 young men knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, a sort of a divine gift.
And Daniel got something extra special.
Daniel, specifically, was given the ability to understand visions and dreams.
Okay, so let's fast forward. 3 years of this training pass. They're finally brought before King Nebuchadnezzar himself. What happens then?
Well, the king questions them on all sorts of matters, wisdom, understanding, and the text states he found them, quote, 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom.
10 times better. That's quite an endorsement from Nebuchadnezzar.
It really is. It wasn't just book learning. It was this profound wisdom and insight that really stood out to the king.
So that led to them entering the king's service directly.
Yeah.
And Daniel, it notes, stayed in the royal court for a very long time.
Yeah, a long career right there in the heart of the empire.
So when you trace that path, captives under pressure, making a stand on, well, what seems like a small detail like food, and ending up as highly valued advisors, recognized for extraordinary wisdom. It's quite the journey laid out in just this one chapter.
It really is. The text connects the dots. The challenge, the principle, the test, the visible outcome, and then this remarkable understanding and wisdom attributed to a divine source. Makes you think, doesn't it? About navigating tough environments, about holding on to your principles, maybe even about where deep insight truly comes from, especially when, all the pressure is pushing you to just conform, something to ponder as you navigate your own world, perhaps.